All we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given to us. Famous words of Tolkien. And this is how I will open my review for Michael. Welcome and let's crack it. The pause. So, what is behind the screen, and usually what we do not see or care about that much. And I can understand that the numbers and some details behind the film we are watching, behind the story, may not sound that interesting, but they are more important than you think. They give the movie the shape, the form. They decide about sometimes even the outcome of the story before even we will watch it. Why is that? Because obviously every movie is different. And I think that Michael is a perfect example why the polls matter. Michael is not a simple biopic, drama, or film. This is stepping into the world of legend. The icon of the magnitude so big that even the idea of making this film was already feeling like a bit too much to carry, a weight that might be impossible to meet the expectations. So the question actually for me is this the real time? Is this the right time for this film? Or maybe it's still too early. Maybe it's not the right time. Maybe it's already too late. Maybe this film should hit the cinemas 5, 10, 15 years ago. Of course, it's very hard to answer that question. But why timing matters is because the time shapes the reality and the life we live in the present. And this reality creates our perception, how we see the things around. And that influence the way we basically watch the stories that are presented on the big screen. The time and the life and the reality we live in basically decide how we will receive the film or what we can see. And that being said, Michael isn't a simple biopic drama. This film steps into a very thin ice of huge cultural weight. Enormous expectations may be impossible to satisfy. Who knows? The film will obviously show us by the numbers what kind of reception is getting. The budget predictions for the openings are quite good. However, first cold reviews might lower the numbers. And with the budget between 150 up to even 200 by some sources, it at the moment is a bit of question mark how the film will perform. The feeling. So what the heart feels, but eyes cannot see. With the movies like Michael, the biographical dramas, this always feels a bit different. Because we think we know these people. We think we know their lives through the music, books, movies, documentaries, news, newspapers, internet. Basically, we create our own vision of how the life of that icon of the person was looking like and what we would like to see, what elements we would like to be covered. These are obviously always a very risky approach. Because if we don't take a distance, our expectations might be not met. We create in our heads something that doesn't exist even. So it is impossible to fulfill this kind of expectations. And when I was watching Michael, I felt a lot. Starting from the slow ending in the very early days that I already wanted to skip and go further to this iconic and biggest moment. So in some way, I can understand some disappointment with this film or the cold reviews coming out. Why is that? Because we live in the times when everything is expected to come instantly, and there's no patience for the story. And the people don't even want to watch 30 seconds reels anymore on Instagram because it's too boring. They need constantly something new because our minds are programmed to constantly get this injection of some action or drama. And Michael, I don't think it fits this kind of cinema and expectations. For me, I think it's well balanced. What I felt was what I was actually looking for to feel. In some way, this was probably the quickest 2 hours in a long time I had in cinema. Because at some point, without even realize that, I stopped watching Michael. I start feeling Michael. I start living by this film, but what I'm seeing. And I think that's what's for me is the unique essence I am looking in every movie like that, especially in the films of great, iconic legends. The craft. So we're looking under the hood what is working, how it is working, actually. And the craft is not always only a craft. I think it's something more because it fills the gaps with different categories. Like the music that make us feel some atmosphere, some vibe. The writing and directing can make us feel the whole story from the beginning to the end. The performances that can amaze us and stay long after the film ends. So what or how the Michael lands actually here? Unfortunately, the story does not give us that much. And this is because, obviously, it has the director, filmmaker vision. And I actually mentioned about it something in my most anticipated films video that 2 hours might be not enough to show the life of icon like Michael Jackson. So it feels in some way short, not complete. And if we take this film like a part of something bigger, then obviously this structure makes sense. If this is being considered as a standalone project, it will not satisfy everybody. Or maybe a lot of people will feel like they needed more, and this is completely understandable. Performance yet of Jaafar Jackson, I think, is astonishing. He is spectacular. I strongly believe that this is the best performance so far of 2026. And in some way, it makes me wonder, will he get the attention or the recognition he actually truly deserves? I think this is really well made film. A lot of categories here, like editing, cinematography, costumes, everything is on the top level. And all the rest, well, you have to go and judge it by yourself. But I am very, very satisfied what I have seen. The idea in our hunting what if. With a film like Michael, this is quite tricky because the idea what if might reflect a lot of things here. What if he would make a different choice? What if he would be a different person? What if he would live a different life? With the legend and the icon like Michael, there is almost endless possibilities of what if. And I like how the idea is presented here because it doesn't chase these questions. It kind of give another one. It kind of say, what if you will just sit and watch this vision? What if you will just see and accept that this is the way this story should be told? And I do support that with all my heart. The moment, the one scene that can change or rewrite the whole movie. Well, with the Michael, it's not again that easy to just say, oh, this or that moment changes the film. Of course, there's a lot of great moments in this film, but when the film tries to capture a moment of life, of a legend, of an icon, actually the whole life became a moment. We enter here kind of a collection of moments, fragments from someone's life. And this is something that needs to be accessed on your own. So I think I would say I do really encourage you to go and watch this film and try to find your own moment. And then you can definitely, in the comments for example, discuss what moment touch us in this film. And the shadow, the little note of critique. Michael was on my list of the most anticipated films of 2026, and I feel like I put it way too low. In some way, I feel like I misjudged this film from the beginning. I do understand some cold reactions about this film from the other side, but yet I do not agree with them. I think we live in the times when the satisfaction is really much harder to reach. If something is not the way the people created in their minds, it's being called out. The complaint start raising. If the movie is not dark enough, if it's not dirty enough, if it doesn't have enough sex, violence, or drama, is not enough controversial, or even going further, it does not reinvent something, it's not creating something that didn't exist, it's not messing around, the people call it boring. And I think obviously it's not the way to watch the films these days. There's always something more about the cinema. And I feel like some people that calls themselves fans or obviously they claim to have knowledge about cinema or the movies, and yet they're rejecting to accept the vision of the version of someone else because it simply doesn't fit their narrative. It doesn't fit or match what they already created and imagined in their heads. And like I say, this is not the way to watch the films. But that's as always. It's only my humble opinion. I did found in Michael what I am looking in the cinema. For me, it is perfect as this. And that is why I think the Michael is kind of like a message in a bottle. Some will find it, but some will not. Some will be able to get this touch of it, and some won't. So, as always, I do encourage you to go and watch and give a chance to this film. And then you can compare your opinion with mine, and maybe we can discuss this further. I'm giving Michael 10 out of 10, not because how other feels about it, but because how I feel about this film. If you like this content, please follow, subscribe, hit a like, and that is it for today. Thank you for watching it. Have a good day, good night, wherever you are. Take care. Bye bye.